On today's journey, we will be traveling to Teotihuacan, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and home to the ancient temple complex built by the Pre-Columbian People of Mexico. The temple complex is located about 33 miles or 52 kilometers north of Mexico City and is about an hour's drive from our hotel in Condesa.
Good morning. We're on our second full day, third day here in Mexico City. Today is April 19th.
We were picked up in front of our hotel at 8 a.m. sharp. We booked a private tour online that included transportation, a knowledgeable guide, and tastings of locally crafted drinks. As we drove to the destination, our guide Hector pointed out certain sites in and around Mexico City and gave us a brief history of the things he pointed out. Upon arrival, our guide paid the entrance fees and we were given an opportunity to use the restrooms before entering the complex. There were also some shops in the event that you needed some sunscreen, water, or a hat. After a brief introduction to the complex, the first area we would be visiting would be the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, and unfortunately, it would also be the only temple that we would be able to climb. Apparently, after COVID, access to climb the other temples had been restricted.
Mexico City is this little island we have there. Zócalo. Templo Mayor is there, okay? Templo Mayor will connect, well, to Chapultepec Park using some bridges. If you remember this road, I told you the roller coaster is crossing these little islands that we have there. So we came up north like that. This is where you saw the gondolas. And then we came down. The hydropower plant I spoke about is right here. The Church of Acolman is the church I spoke, and now we are up here at Teotihuacan, okay?
After introducing us to the main road in the complex, the Avenue of the Dead, we entered an area that was known as the Citadel. This area was given the name because it was surrounded by walls on four sides, and the Temple of the Feathered Serpent lays within it. Normally, a few stairs like this would not be too bad, but being an elevation of over 7,000 feet or above 2,100 meters, this became much more of a challenge. We climbed down to see the opposite side of where we came up from to see a different part of the temple. Guide introduced us to something that is very apparent in the cultures that existed here. This was the duality, the idea of a constant need for balance, such as male-female, fire-water, night and day, and that both aspects were always represented. After spending some time taking pictures and learning about the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, we headed back to the Avenue of the Dead. Here we would get an opportunity to walk and explore on our own for a short period of time before meeting up with a guide at the Temple of the Sun. Our guide gave us some useful information on what we can keep an eye out for during our self-exploration time.
Where are we?
So we are at Teotihuacan. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it is also home to several cultures that all use this place as a city, as a place of worship, and many other things, including the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Olmecs.
I guess there's not really any words to describe how I'm feeling except for wow, because it's one of those places where I never thought I would visit, like Wyoming, but in the case of Wyoming, I ended up going there like 3 times or more, and here it's wow. Like, I can't believe I'm at this really cool historic place. I don't know what to say. It's just wow. It's unbelievable.
We spent about 15 minutes exploring a section of the complex where you can go underground before meeting back up with our guide. Our next stop was the Temple of the Sun. Hector explained to us that the size of the base of this temple was only 5 meters less than that of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Hector explained to us that when the Spanish arrived, they destroyed the top portion of this temple, which was a small wooden structure. However, they did not realize there was an entire pyramid buried under dirt and vegetation, which is why the complex is still intact. Hector explained to us that nobody fully knows who built this temple complex. This was because there were so many people from around Central America who lived in this area. These groups of people included the Nahuatls from central and northern Mexico, the Zapotecs from southern Mexico near Guatemala, the Yucatecs from the Yucatan Peninsula, and many others. A good example he gave us was that of a modern American metropolis. If you were to discover a city like New York or Los Angeles buried underground 2,000 years from now, you would not know which culture built it because there are so many different races and ethnicities present, unless you had a recorded history of it. After the history lesson, we took some pictures and headed to our next stop. The Temple of the Sun is the largest temple in the complex and represented fire or male side of the duality. However, it is not considered the most important. Our next stop, the Temple of the Moon, was considered the most important. The Temple of the Moon was said to represent the female, water, or even night side of the duality. It's believed to be the most important temple here and represented fertility, water, and creation. After taking some pictures, we moved on to an area of the complex that was currently being reconstructed. This area was meant to show how the buildings in the complex would have looked if the pigments were still visible. Shortly after this area, we went to a viewpoint where you can see the entire complex. This part of the tour was nearly complete. We would then walk through some vendor stalls before heading to the parking lot. Luckily for us, during the self-exploration time, our guide moved the car from one section of the park to the other to avoid having us walk all the way back. We drove about 5 minutes away from the park entrance to a small establishment, where we would spend the next hour or so of the tour. We met a local that introduced us to the agave plant. Talked about how the agave plant has multiple purposes. Its fibers can be used to create clothing, the juice can be turned into tequila or pulque, and its tips can be used as needles. She then led us to a gentleman who was using a traditional loom to create textiles from the agave fibers.
Here we have needles, are named lanzaderas. My friend put the lanzadera in this part. When he pulls this, the lanzadera passes through the base. When he pulls again, returns, and this way he puts the color in this part. With the pedals to make the design, the pattern of the textile. As you can see, he uses hand and feet at the same time.
After the demonstration, she taught us about obsidian. Obsidian is a volcanic glass rock that was used as a type of currency by the people of Teotihuacan. Obsidian was used for weapons, jewelry, and many other things.
Of the economy in this region, it was used like exchange currency like turquoise or cacao.
Finally, we reached the last part of this tour, where we would be able to do a tasting of 3 different traditional drinks. We started out with pulque, followed by tequila and mezcal.
5% of alcohol, and with your cup you have to say in Spanish, arriba,
Arriba,
abajo,
abajo,
al centro,
al centro,
adentro.
adentro. That's so good. It's sweet.
Continue with the next one. Tequila. Tequila is from Jalisco. It's another kind of agave. It has 30% of alcohol, and with your cup, again, arriba,
Arriba,
abajo,
abajo,
al centro,
al centro,
movimiento, adentro.
adentro.
This is amazing. Keep your cup with you. This is mezcal. Mezcal is from Oaxaca state. It's made of espadín agave, another kind of agave. It has 34% of alcohol. It's a little bit stronger than tequila. It's the warm inside the chimiquit. The tradition says that if you have the worm in your cup, you will have 7 years of good luck. Obviously, you have to touch that worm.
You have to chew.
With this you have to repeat in English, for every good, mezcal, for every bad,
Mezcal.
there is no remedy,
There is no remedy.
we have to drink, 1 liter and a half. Cheers.
Oh, okay.
And next one, this is a sweet tequila. It has almost cinnamon and vanilla. This one
Oh, the other one, you can feel it go down. Or feel it down.
This is a local drink. It's made here in Teotihuacan. It's named Teotihuacan. It's a liquor made of pepper filter. It has 15% alcohol. You only find this liquor shop. It's not possible just here. You have to say again. Arriba. Abajo.
Abajo.
Al centro.
Al centro.
Movimiento. Cuchi.
Adentro.
After buying some souvenirs, we headed back to our hotel. It was nearly 2 p.m. and we had been on this tour since about 8 a.m. We arrived at our hotel around 3 p.m. We dropped off our stuff and looked for a place to eat. Our guide had recommended trying out huitlacoche, which is a fungus that grew on corn. So we found a place that offered it with tacos. Here at Molina El Pujol, we ordered our dinner. One of our drinks first came out, and it is atole de mame, and it is a corn-based drink that we just learned about on our tour. So let's have a try. We also ordered huitlacoche taco, a quesadilla, chilaquile de mole, and esquites. After our late lunch, we began to walk back towards the hotel when it started to rain. The rain helped to cool us off after being out in the sun most of the morning at Teotihuacan. It was now about 5 p.m. and we relaxed at the hotel with the nice cool air coming in through the window while we watched a movie and ended the night ordering some Spanish food from the restaurant below us. Though it was a very tiring day, overall it was amazing and full of history and culture. We would have another big day the following morning in a different area of Mexico City.
This is my outfit. I made this jumpsuit out of Nick's old uniform, and I put a patch of Chibi in it.
It fell off the I don't know if somebody hit them. Oh my god.
If you like this vlog, please consider liking and subscribing, and stay tuned for the next one.